Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Trans Rant Tuesdays, where I rant. So, something that recently happened was I came out to students in one of my classes and told them I was transgender, and I didn't want to do that, but I had to because I did a project on being trans very briefly, and so there it came out. I strongly dislike coming out to an extent because then that's all they hold on to and just make it a complete identity on you instead of you not knowing and then seeing me as me without this, but now you know this and that's all you want to see and talk about. Like, it suddenly became my personality when it had no effect on anything beforehand. For one of our projects, one of our next projects, we had to do interviews on any like social issue, and someone's topic that they were doing was media representation of minorities. And so the kid was going around just asking random people and sitting them down to interview them. And so then he sat me down and was talking about my nationality, and I'm Italian. And then so he wanted to talk about cultures and their representation. But then, of course, he just has to bring up, and I know you said you're transgender, if you want to talk about that. And the representation in the media and how trans people should be represented more. And so immediately I'm like, that wouldn't have been a question if you hadn't known, obviously. And this guy probably thinks that I am for multiple genders. I'm probably gonna say there should be more representation and all these things, because now immediately, now that you know I'm transgender, you probably just have all these preconceived ideas that I believe such stereotypes that come along with the trans movement. So then I was just like, I'm just gonna be honest. I don't believe in multiple genders. I think the representation in the media is horrendous because it's not someone that just puts a costume on and a costume. It's not someone that just puts on a pink shirt and calls himself a girl, or puts a dress on but looks like a full-blown man. It's not, you are actually diagnosed. It's a medical condition that you can't help. So I don't understand how, I was like, it shouldn't have become a politic, because when I was coming out and transitioning, I never had politics in mind about it, because it does not go hand in hand. People take it and make it a politic. And so I was just saying, like, my trans status is not someone's political statement. And so in my school, there's bathrooms that, like, public, anyone could go in, like multiple stalls and urinals, and it just says, it has the trans symbol and says all gender restroom. And so and then there's single bathrooms, but they can't just be single bathrooms like they always were. Now there's a random label on them that says all gender bathroom, but literally nothing about them has changed. You're just making it seem, you're just enforcing the narrative of the trans agenda. So right above where we were sitting, there was a sign that said all gender restroom that way, and I pointed at the sign and I was like, that's ridiculous, like that I don't agree with that at all. And they were looking at me, this is like the part that just, like, this is the problem. They were looking at me confused, like I'm supposed to just be happy that that's there. And I'm like, no, being transgender doesn't mean you make everything gender neutral. Like, I'm going to go into the men's bathroom. Like, when I transitioned, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm a third gender. I explained that. I had to learn about all these things, the non-binary, the gender fluid, the gender neutral, agender, whatever, gender queer. I had to learn about it the same way everybody else did. But since I'm transgender, I'm suddenly the LGBT dictionary. And how, like, no, I wasn't born with all these policies on me. You took them and constructed policies. And I'm like, gender is not a social construct, because if it was, then nobody would be transgender. You would be fine the way you are. And I'm like, I have gender dysphoria and I'm on hormones. There's a big difference between someone who actually transitions and is perceived as a man or a woman in comparison to someone who just cuts their hair and you have to ask for their pronouns. but we're categorized the same way, and I'm just not with it. And so that's what I was trying to say, and how I'm not a Democrat, and I'm not 100% liberal, and I don't have, like, how does me being transgender dictate my stance on abortion? They have no similarities, but we're mind controlled to think that way. And if you can't do that, then you're out of you're not a believer in free speech. To be controlled doesn't make any sense to me. So that's what I was trying to come and say to him, and it gets me so frustrated, because it doesn't, like, it's not fair that, like, he already had these ideas of what I was going to say, and then I go against it because it's not the majority of people. And I'm saying, like, trans representation is just any person. Like, why do you have to constantly put this identity politic right up front? If you want to be treated like any normal average person, which trans people are, why do you always have to put the trans identity always in someone's face about it? Because then that's all they're gonna think of you, and it's kind of annoying. Like, in the media, trans actors, they always play trans roles, and, like, why can't you just be just an actor? And then you want to be shown that you're just a regular actor, but then you always have to have the stance that you're a trans actor. Like, why does it matter? Like, cisgender actors don't go, like, you don't refer to a cis woman actor and be like, oh, she's a female actor. It's already implied. So you can be like, it just so happens that, oh, he's trans, but he's playing every trans role. Like, why? Like, I would do that. I would play a trans person, obviously, because I am. But it doesn't. If that's all you think there is to me, then I have a problem with it. And I'm like, just in the word transgender, like, it's self-explanatory that you're a transgender man. It's defined as a biological female whose gender identity is opposite their biological sex, is opposite female. Opposite. Two things, it takes two things to have an opposite. That's it. So the opposite of female is male. And it's not that hard. Like, I don't want to be transgender. That's the whole thing of what I'm trying to say to people. Like, I didn't, like, people mistake the transition part because it's a journey, and say, like, it suffices, like, it justifies a third gender aspect because your body is different and everything, and then this becomes the narrative. And it's not, because I don't want to have to go through this, but it's my process, it's my life, and that's what I have to do. And I'm very happy. I'm proud to be transgender. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just a mental illness there's no cure for it besides transitioning to the best of your ability. And people will take that and think that's all there is to you, and you have no life. You have no substance. You have no dimensions besides that. And it's like, you're a cisgender man, and this person is a cisgender woman. You think they walk around all day thinking about their gender? No, I don't do that either. But that's what will be believed. Like, you're calling me he. Like, that's a male pronoun. I'm not a third gender. I look like a male. And I feel like that's why a lot of trans people live stealth, because they don't want to come out and have their trans identity the only thing looked at, and all this fear, and also the rejection part, and all the hype around it. And that's why I feel like the misrepresentation is also because of that, because 99% of the time, if a trans person walked by you, you wouldn't know that they were transgender, because that's not what the media wants to show you. It's always a feminine boy or a masculine girl. It's never someone who just appears as that gender, because they always want to put this gender neutral, rebelling against gender ideology on things. So that's what never is shown. But then, if someone actually is medically transitioned and is a transgender man or woman, then it's like, it's not okay because you pass too easily. That's the whole fucking point. Like, I'm not trying to not look cisgender. Like, it just so happens this is how my transition turned out. Like, this is what I look like. Sorry that it worked. I hope I got my point across. I'm not the best with words, but I'm trying here because it's just so frustrating. So yeah, moral of the story, there are two genders. If you pass, that's not transphobic. That's just who you are. Being transgender is not a politic. It's not the only thing about someone. It's just a piece of you. So stop labeling it that way. Stop misrepresenting trans people the way you want them to look. And yeah, and then we can all be at peace. Have a great day.